The shocking news came out yesterday that Alek Manoahs was being sent down to the Florida Development League by the Toronto Blue Jays, and we were waiting for some coaches' reactions and some players' reactions as well, and we got them. Chris Bassett and John Schneider spoke out about the Alek Manoah demotion, and we also got some Kevin Gausman news. He is chasing Blue Jay history, so we'll break that down and much more in this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. Now, we got a lot to get into today, but first I want to thank you for all the support that we've gotten on our recent videos. A lot of news surrounding the Toronto Blue Jays lately, and I know that they're playing a series against the Houston Astros, but it seems that this topic that we're going to talk about today is all that we could focus on right now. And Alek Manoah being demoted, not even to AAA Buffalo, but to the Florida Development Complex by the Toronto Blue Jays is the biggest source of news, maybe not even in Toronto, but in all of Major League Baseball. So we were waiting for some player reaction, and Chris Bassett and John Schneider spoke out, so we'll have that today. But we want to thank you again for the support.
Yeah, it's been great. We're on the road to 7,500 subscribers. Make sure to hit the button. And like you said, MLB, Twitterland, everything. Every team is going crazy. Specifically, Yankees fans. I saw a lot of them on Twitter talking about the Manoah demotion, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. And like you said, we got some reactions, and we told you yesterday that we'd be covering you guys today. So let's just get right into it. Managers and players speak out of Manoah. Of course, Bassett and Schneider, the highlights. Stroman also had something to say, and Berrios as well is also in there. But let's start with Chris Bassett, like you said. So Chris Bassett on Alek Manoah being optioned to the Florida Complex League. First and foremost, I think his maturity through the struggles has been really underlooked. How he's handled himself on and off the field is really admirable. I really wanted to say that first and foremost. And that's basically what he said. He basically just said that it's going to be tough. They have no doubts that, Chris Bassett said there's no doubts that Alek Manoah will come back and be a major leaguer, hopefully this year, but in the future. What are your thoughts on, I guess we can quickly touch on the whole situation after we had a day to think about it before we get into the other couple reactions, but I'm not worried about it. It's a big bombshell, and it's important that this works out for the Jays.
Yeah, this strikes me as a total reset for the Toronto Blue Jays and for Alek Manoah as well. They could have easily sent him down to AAA, and he could start every fifth day over there and just kind of figure out some things. But I think this goes deeper than his mechanics, deeper than how he's feeling out there on the mound. This is a very mental game driven type move by the Toronto Blue Jays. They want him to have a total reset, be back home in Florida, kind of step away from the game for a couple of weeks. And I think ultimately that'll do him some good. We saw it last year with Jose Berrios' struggles. Wasn't to this extent, actually, but like he was really bad last year, and his teammates were there to back him up, and they stood by him. And look at him this season. He's back to the old Jose Berrios that we know and love, and the Jose Berrios that the Toronto Blue Jays traded for. You look at Chris Bassett. He struggled early on in his Blue Jay career. He had that really rough start, and the Jays stood by him. Kevin Gausman's wife called Alek Manoah's fiance just to make sure she was doing okay. So there's a real sense of brotherhood amongst this rotation and amongst this team in general, and they're all going to stand by one another. And I think Alek Manoah will be back in no time, but he just needs a reset, and he needs to get back to who he really is, and that's someone that's very confident, that's very poised out there on the mound, and he hasn't been that thus far.
Yeah, especially, the big difference between Berrios, I guess, and Manoah is the money they're making. Luckily, Manoah's not making any. He hasn't been extended. He's making very little money, but the brotherhood comment is good. And let's touch on what John Schneider spoke about for a timeline, as well as how he feels about the Manoah situation. So he said there's no timeline for how long Manoah will remain there. When he's ready, he's ready. First step will be kind of an intake bullpen session in Florida, where the Jays assess Manoah physically and mechanically. The plan would be games, and we'll see from there. And like we've discussed, this is the lowest point that you can be in the sense of, the minors. There's not any fans. I believe they said in the broadcast yesterday, maybe 10 or 20 people. But Schneider also went on to say that Manoah was upset when the Jays told him he been sent down because of the competitor he is, and it wasn't an easy conversation. He understands the performance hasn't really been there. Took it as about as you could take it, about as good as you could take it. And finally, Jose Berrios touched on it as well, and he said, I can tell it, Alek, and people going through the same thing. He's going through. Keep believing in yourself. Keep working. He still has the ability and opportunity to get better. I know he's going to be back sooner than later. And that's a very good point that he got to spoke out on it, because he went, like you said, a very similar situation. Obviously, Berrios was more experienced, but I don't know. Very insightful by Jose Berrios.
Yeah, and imagine this team if Alek Manoah were the pitcher that he was last year. And who's going to fill that void while he is in the minor leagues? And we don't know how long he's going to be gone either. So the subsequent moves that follow by the Toronto Blue Jays are going to be very important. We saw Bowden Francis be called up to the team. He's on the 40-man roster now, but he was warming up in the bullpen yesterday. So what is his role going to be? Are they going to roll with a 4-man rotation and go with a bullpen day with Bowden Francis as the bulk opener? Those are the big question marks that Alek Manoah leaves behind now that he is in the Florida Complex League, and hopefully he can iron some things out there. But I truly believe that the Jays just want him to step away from the game for a little bit, because you can go from hero to zero in this game real quickly. And he was a hero last year for the Blue Jays. He did everything that they needed him to do and even more. And now he's getting booed by his own fan base. So it can't be a easy thing to go through for him. And he needs to step away from the game for a little bit here.
Yeah, and it's not just him. If you look across MLB, there's a lot of pitchers, Dylan Cease, and there's tons more as well who were, Cy Young contenders before the year. And now maybe it's a pitch clock, maybe it's a mix of everything. I think it's a lot more to do with the mentals and the fatigue with Manoah. But we'll leave that there as we move on to a pitcher who's doing very good things. That's Kevin Gausman, making history, and he is in the progress and of making history. What a great start by him yesterday. 7 innings pitched, 13 strikeouts, and there's tons of different ways you can go about him making history. They touch on in the broadcast, and this is just one of them. He has the highest K per 9 by Blue Jays starter in franchise history as of right now. And if he does keep up the pace, we're talking about an all-time Blue Jay. His numbers are unbelievable, similar to 2021 Robbie Ray, who at the time we were speaking about being crazy. And then here's another piece of history he made, his most career 13-plus strikeout efforts by Blue Jays in franchise history. And you can see he's on the road to doing that. So, Peter, Gausman's been phenomenal. Obviously, it's Blue Jays history. Maybe he's on the way to making MLB history at some point this season. He's getting tons of strikeouts, but what are your thoughts on Kevin Gausman, whether that's this year or yesterday's start?
Well, yesterday he needed to do exactly what he went out and did. And it feels like every time he's made a start in the past couple of weeks, it's Kevin Gausman's going to save the season. That's like what we're reiterating over here. He's got to go in there and shove for 7 or 8 innings and give that bullpen a break. And yesterday, they needed it even more than they did in those previous starts, because Manoah went a third of an inning and everyone in that bullpen was taxed. So shout out to Kevin Gausman, gave them 7 innings and only 1 run, that one home run by Mauricio Dubon, first batter. And then apart from that, I mean, it was smooth sailing for Kevin Gausman. 13 strikeouts in 7 innings is nothing to laugh at. And he's just so nasty. He's so steady out there on that mound, and just a joy to watch. And I'll say it again, best pitcher that they've had since Roy Halladay.
Yeah, I agree. I'm right there with you. And we know who our ace is, and we definitely know if we make the playoffs who's going to be starting game 1. At least we'd like to think so. I think he's earned it, and I think he has been not only one of the best pitcher in the Blue Jays, one of the best pitchers, if not in the American League. And I'm sure he'll get lots of all-star votes because his season has been unbelievable. Like you see here, he's been on track to hit, I think it's over like 290 strikeouts this year or something crazy. So overall, very, very good at it, Kevin Gausman. Let's hope we can continue this pace, because like you said, yesterday was probably the biggest start of Kevin Gausman's season by far, because the bullpen was absolutely taxed, and luckily we only had to use a couple pitchers. But a look ahead to today's game, Peter. What are you looking for? It's the final game against the Astros. Hopefully we can Chris Bassitt can do his thing coming off the opportunity list. Any quick thoughts before we wrap up?
After that first game, if you were going to tell me that the Jays had a chance to go ahead and get the split, I'd be all over it. And Chris Bassitt, as good as Kevin Gausman has been, Chris Bassitt has been the second best pitcher on this Blue Jays team. So he gives them a chance every time he's out there. I want to go see him go out there and perform very well for his newborn baby. And hopefully he gives them some good innings tonight.
Yeah, we'll see you guys later for the video. Thanks for watching. See you then.